created a new repository in the XTBC 18S1 GitHub called Dwarf Underground. This is a static website meant to be broken up into React components. Let's have a look at it. Everyone should go there. Let me copy this into Slack. And we're going to clone it. We're going to make a local copy of this repository. So I'm going to change directories up to my XTBC directory, get out of the Tatum Tots directory. Then on GitHub, if you say clone or download, it'll give you the URL. So copy that. You'll want to use HTTPS on the network you're on. Then type git clone and paste in that URL. And it's automatically going to create a new folder for it. So after you've cloned it, CD into it. It should be called Dwarf Underground. And I'm going to open up the code. Looks like I've got a public directory and a source directory. Public's got index.html. Source has some stuff. Now, to do React for real, you're generally not just going to include React and React DOM in a script tag. You're going to use a package manager. Has anyone used a package manager in any language? Like Ruby gems for Ruby. I don't know what the common one is for Python. You know what I'm talking about when I say package manager? Yeah.
Is it like CocoaPods and Swift?
Yes. Like CocoaPods in Swift. Yes. Or like apt-get on Linux. Heck, it's kind of like the App Store. It's an easy way to reuse other people's code through a simple directory instead of like having to go out to GitHub every time and cloning it down. So in JavaScript, the common one is called npm for Node Package Manager. One second. We are going to use the npm directory, but we're not going to use the npm command line tool. We're going to use yarn. It was part of your setup instructions, so hopefully everyone's installed yarn. On this network especially, you'll be very glad you're using yarn instead of npm because it's way, way faster. Yeah. You will. Yeah. You will have to do that. First, let's just get it running. So you see there's a file called package.json. Package.json contains a list of npm packages in this section called dependencies. And you'll see there's React and React DOM. And that's it. Then you'll see dev dependencies as well. You'll see one called React scripts. And then you'll see in package.json some scripts. Start, build, test, eject. So everything that uses npm or yarn needs to have a package.json file that lists our dependencies. To install our dependencies, we will just type yarn install or yarn I, same thing. Now, it may take a minute the first time. So it's going to look at all the packages listed there, and it's going to get them from the directory, which is published to the web. And it's going to install them and place them inside your project. Yeah, probably.
So it should take a while.
Yes, it should take a while. Do you know if you installed Node? You're on Windows? A Mac? Well, does npm work? Can you do npm install? It might take the rest of your life, but yeah, try npm space I. Okay, if you don't have yarn, do npm install. Let me make sure I'm not crazy here. On the website, under setup instructions, here's setup for Mac. I have Node.js here. Install Node, test your installation. Yarn. Yarn is an alternative to npm that offers several advantages, not the least of which is speed. If you've installed Homebrew, just run brew install yarn. Otherwise, follow the instructions on yarn to install yarn, which is what you will need to do for Windows. You need to actually download the installer from yarnpackage.com.
It says there appears to be trouble with your network connection, like occasionally.
Yeah. You will not want to use npm if you can possibly avoid it. Okay, it's still, I mean, either way, the first time is going to have to download all these dang packages. This may be tough. Try to get it installed at some point. Unfortunately, it may, when we're all doing it at once in here on the same network, it may be excruciatingly slow. So make sure you go back out to the website, make sure yarn is installed. You can do it with something like Homebrew, or you can just use the installer that you download from the yarn website. Here, I'm just going to copy a link straight to the installation instructions. Put it in S1 morning. It's going to be slow the first time no matter what, but it's I'm a little behind. Once that's done, what it actually does, you'll notice now there's suddenly a node modules folder in my project. So source is where all my JavaScript, all my React belongs. Public, you can put static HTML, images, stuff like that in there. Node modules, whoa. That's a lot. So we don't include that stuff in our repository. It's already in gitignore. It's already there. You don't need to worry about it. But each of these things, they have dependencies of their own, especially React scripts. So it not only installs those 3 packages, it installs everything that those packages depend on in order to run. That's the magic of package management. So suppose React scripts depends on a whole bunch of stuff, which it does. When you install React scripts with npm or yarn, it's going to install all of its dependencies. And it's going to stick them all inside node modules. So now they're available to our project. Now inside package.json, there are also some scripts, including start. Let's see what happens if I type yarn start. This is not going to work until you've gotten install to work. If you're using npm, it's npm run start. Yarn start. Let's see what happens. It opened up something at localhost 3000. And notice I've got a web server running here now. Here it is. Welcome to React. To get started, edit source app.js and save to reload. Neat. App.js. Here's my little React component. So it's just got what they put here. Let's get rid of some of that, and let's just say, hello, React. Save it. Go back to your browser. Don't even bother refreshing, and it's already changed. This web server that's running here is already looking for us to make changes. And if we make any, it's automatically going to restart our refresh our browser. Super convenient. We do have a warning here, logos defined but never used. So at the top of our page now, we've got a bunch of imports. With ES6, we have modules available, so we can import code from other files into our JavaScript files. And this is one way we avoid ever using global variables. If we need something that's defined elsewhere, we import it. In this case, we import React from React. So from, where is it looking for this? If I just put something in a string like that in the from section, what it's going to do is look inside my node modules. So there's a node module in there called React, and that's where it's getting this from. If I instead give it the path to a file like logo SVG, it's going to look for a file in the same directory that I called this. Same with this CSS here. It's just importing a CSS file from the current directory, // But if you don't put a path there, it's going to look inside your node modules. Let's get rid of this comma curly brace component for a moment because that's confusing to me. So if I just import React, instead of component here, I could put react.component just like we did on CodePen. And we've got it. Same thing. So with ES6 modules, if you want to write something that can be imported, you must export from your file. You can have a default export, and then you just say import whatever from that, and it's going to import the default export. But you can also have named exports. We're going to get more into what that looks like later. But if you have named exports, you can put inside curly brace the name of those things. So if we had an imported component like that, we could just say component. Still works. So what's this index.html? Looks like it's a nearly empty HTML file that just has a div with an ID of root. Look back in app.js at the bottom. Well, not app.js, index.js. We do what we did in CodePen. React DOM render. We render the app component. And we replace that root element with it. So let's look at index.js here for a second. We import React. We import React DOM. And then we import app from /app. So that would be app.js, but you don't have to put .js. If you're importing from a JS file, you don't have to put that. So from app, notice the bottom, export default app. That makes this a module, and that means it can be imported. So our default export from this is app, which is our class. So that means somewhere else we can import it. Now we could name it whatever we wanted on this side. Because it's the default export, whatever we exported by default is going to get imported here, and it's going to get named whatever we call it. No, we're not trying to confuse ourselves, so we're not going to name it something funny, but we totally could. Now notice I've got a file here called static HTML and static CSS. Yeah.
Can you go over it again? Because I'm totally confused with what happened.
Yeah, okay. You're talking about the export or what?
So what do you do after yarn?
Yeah, all I've done is yarn install and yarn start. I didn't really do anything after that. So that ran a web browser, ran a web server and opened the app in a browser. And then if I make changes to my source files, it's going to change them in the browser automatically. Now it is noon. Let me show you real quick. In this project, I've also got these files, static HTML and static CSS. They're not inside the source directory. They're not actually part of our React app. Well, let's look at them. Since I've got my web server already running, I'm just going to open up a new tab in my console, and it'll the way I have it set, it'll open in the same directory. So I'm just going to open in the web browser static.html. Here's Dwarf Underground, delving deep for the shiniest news. I didn't make this. My former co-teacher, the old Dana, whose name is Seth, made this. Yeah. So here we've got some got like a social network for orcs or something, or for dwarfs. So it looks like we've got an ad over here, visit sponsor. We've got some horrible clickbaity links here. Surprise for Indiana hobbits born before 1999. Mine 20% more gold with one weird trick. You won't believe what's under this mountain. Single orcs in Indianapolis. So this is a nice static web page. If we were using React to make this, though, we would break this up into different components. We probably have a component for the header, probably have a component for the ad, probably a component for this main story here, probably a component for these things. Heck, probably a component for each individual one of these things. So that's something we'd like to try to do. We're out of time to do it here, but that's what this project is supposed to be about. So basically, for homework, do the basic React tutorial that is on the React website. Let's just Google React tutorial and see what we find. First result, reactjs.org tutorial, intro to React. If you need a refresher on JavaScript, we recommend reading this guide. Hopefully we don't need this. So, see if you can do this tutorial. Make a basic React thing. Put a link to this. And then, if you're feeling ambitious, see if you can take this Dwarf Underground project, take what's in the static HTML, and make React components out of that. Once you do the tutorial, you'll have some idea how to break things into components. So see if you can turn this static website into React right here in the same project using your source directory. The more components you break it up into, the better. So see if you can break it up into, say, at least 5 components. If you want to get ambitious, go for more than that. If you want to get really ambitious, down here we've got 4 things that are very, very similar. So it seems like they should be multiple instances of the same component. So see if you can use map to put out these 4 things. So do the React tutorial. That's your homework. Bonus credit. Try to break up Dwarf Underground into multiple components. Super mega bonus credit. Try to use map in the process of doing that thing. All right? Cool. We'll talk a lot more about this. Don't worry if it's overwhelming. The tutorial will probably help some. All right. Go in peace.